Hello and welcome back to Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
Today we're going to do a topic that Eric came up with based on a smaller topic that we keep complaining about. This could have been just a rant.
And I have done a video on this. I did a video on this years ago.
On your old channel?
Yeah.
At one point, Eric was, or at one point, a couple of days ago, Eric was like, hey Cap, on Geekvolution tonight. We used to do a show called that on Geekvolution After Dark. When you have that many shows with the name of the channel in them, could we talk about the fact that books these days are too long? And I was like, I wonder if we can get a whole.
We were talking about something about it. I was like, I'll bring it up on. Or I've been thinking about bringing it up on After Dark.
I think it was one of our many Stephen King conversations.
I think so. I don't.
Might that have been what it was? Because the other night we were talking about authors and we were talking about Stephen King.
Yeah, I know where I was because we were up in the living room. I don't remember.
Also, I was talking to Sarah the other day.
Might have been during Fried Green Tomatoes.
Oh, maybe it was when we were watching Fried Green Tomatoes. We're gonna, for no good reason, talk about that later. But it's
couldn't find the movie we were gonna do.
No, so we did that. It's interesting. Anyway, so for the 5 people that will care about that, no.
Yeah.
But the other day,
that's classic people.
Sarah, my wife was like, for some reason, Jason was asking about Stephen King, and he was like, can I watch a Stephen King movie? And I was like, I can't think of one Stephen King movie.
The TV miniseries, some of those maybe.
Some of those, yeah. And
I
was
might
like,
even be able to watch it. Well, it has some.
It is rated R. It's got a lot of language.
No, I'm talking about the TV miniseries.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm trying to think. It's
kind of dull though. I don't think you'd like it.
But it's there.
No, sure, yeah. But I was like, even if you could, I don't think you would like it. But anyway, the reason I mentioned this, we're all over the place already. We're a minute and 50 seconds in, and we were really off the rails already. But my wife was like, well, then Jason was like, can I read any of the books? And I was
certainly
like,
not.
Again, I don't think there's one. And Sarah goes, yeah, and they're all like 1,000,000 years long. And I was like, well, some of the early ones aren't. And then I was telling Sarah the books that I think she should read that aren't stupid long. I was like, you should read Firestarter, and
I mean,
you
Sarah
should
needs to read The Dark Tower. I think Sarah would adore The Dark Tower.
Yeah, no, I think she would too. Well, it's not like Sarah doesn't like long books.
Yeah,
it's just
she reads like exclusively like 4,000-page fantasy novels.
Yeah, no, so that wouldn't deter her if it was a concept she was interested in. But anyway, I digress. So we wanted to talk about long books and why that is and what our issue is with it. But beyond that, just issues in literature these days in general. Like my kind of larger framing question, Eric, is there anything that the kind of fledgling publishing arena could do to more interest people in actually sitting down and picking up books these days that they're not doing right now? Ignoring the fact that a lot of people these days are going to grow up and just watch movies and TV and aren't going to bother with books anyway. Maybe you have to discount some of those people. Like, no matter what you do, you're just not going to interest people in the medium. But beyond that, like, are we doing too much that's turning people off, and what can we do to get them back? So that's kind of my larger question.
I mean, I really think the biggest #1 thing that they can do just make the books a reasonable length. Everything doesn't have to be an epic. And if it's an epic, if your book is over 700 pages or whatever, it also doesn't need to be a 10-book series.
Yeah.
I'm speaking specifically genre. If you go to a genre section, it's just books this thick. Even what is now like the reasonably length novels is too long. When I look at things like James Bond and old detective novels, the longest ones are like 250. Like 250 is a really long one. The standard is 300 pages. The standard for like mostly disposable, like adventure genre kind of a thing, is 300 pages.
This immediately strikes me as counterintuitive, and I don't know if it is or not. So the natural thing to go to, in my mind, is, well, books are like it doesn't make sense that you would make books really long in a world where people these days don't tend to read like they used to.
You're fighting for attention span.
And yeah, that's what I was going to say, and where people seem to have smaller attention spans. Wouldn't you want to make smaller books? You'd think, like, if I were writing science fiction in the 60s, I might have written a book about how, in the future, books are flash fiction. And that's not what happened. How come?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they keep getting longer. I think it's obnoxious. I think it's self-indulgent. And I think it's... I mean, part of it is I think a huge thing that's happened in the past maybe 2 decades is TV shows started saying we're going to be like novels.
Yeah.
And the novels said, okay, so we have to have 5,000 characters. We have to cut between all of them.
Yeah. Well, that's even a separate, but I think even more important issue. The book that wants to be a movie or a television show, and I mean within the prose. I mean like it's trying to be a visual medium, even though it's not. It's like, oh, I'm too limited by being prose. I always say, what are you talking about? Prose is the most freeing medium there is. You don't have a budget. You can do anything.
Yep. I have an issue with the fact that most genre
But stop
things,
putting a camera in a thing that doesn't have a camera in it.
Yeah. I personally have an issue with how many genre things refuse to have a single protagonist. I don't even mind, like, multiple protagonists. I mean, every single thing has to... I shouldn't have to wait 50 pages to figure out who my main character is.
Oh, yeah.
If there even is one.
Mm-hmm.
And look, there's nothing... These aren't absolutes. There's nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing wrong with doing a huge epic novel that has, writing War and Peace, right? It should be the exception. It should be the...
Well, and it should, like...
And you should be good enough.
As a basic... That's what I was going to say. As a general rule, you shouldn't do... This is just a two-man rant.
Yeah.
As a basic rule, you shouldn't do that, so you have to know the rule before you break it.
George R. Martin is amazing.
That could maybe be your 6th book, but not your 1st.
No. George R. Martin is amazing, but... You're not George R. Martin.
Yeah.
Most of you are not George R. Martin.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're not Tolkien. Don't do it.
Yeah. And even Tolkien I don't like as a writer.
I don't either, but people
He's
do,
a glorified historian,
but
fake historian. And, like, I like that stuff. But
that's what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, it's...
But even that stuff, which I'm with you, I don't care for that prose myself, but, like, Lord of the Rings doesn't read like, oh, if only we were on camera.
Well, Lord of the Rings also doesn't constantly cut to different POVs.
Yeah.
You have...
But that's why...
You start with Frodo, and
that.
sometimes... And, like, you split the party, and so, like, now you're focusing on, like, a couple different groups of characters. Lord of the Rings doesn't take 50 pages, where it's like, and now it's 10 pages of this character, 5 pages of this character, 10 pages of this character, and nothing's happening!
See, what a lot of authors do now, I think part of the problem is, and this might make me sound kind of pretentious, I hope it doesn't, because I really believe this. I think part of the problem now is writers aren't inspired by writing.
Yes.
They're inspired by other stuff.
Yeah.
And they don't think they can break into directing film.
Yeah.
So they write a book because it's cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And or because like that's disingenuous for some people. Like maybe they do fancy themselves an author and that's what they think they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, subconsciously, what they really want to do is make a movie.
Sure.
And so the reason we jump between so many people's heads a lot in literature these days is because that's what we think's going on in movies. But it isn't. I mean, it is and it's not, right? Like, the kind of awkward thing with movies is you only have a POV character, generally speaking, in the sense that this is the person you're following more than other people. Mm. As soon as you put a camera somewhere else, you're not technically from that person's perspective anymore. And you're always looking, unless the whole movie is done from first person, which is always weird and has only rarely been done well. Even frequently jumping into first person POV, you're technically not in that person's head. You're looking at them. You know what I mean? Like I don't think people think about it like this. And so when writers that are mostly inspired by film write a short story or a novel, and they keep jumping back and forth through different people's heads, they do that because that's what they think they're seeing with movies. But you're not actually in those people's heads in the same way you are in a book. Ergo, in the book, because they know they're writing prose from what prose they have read. I'm not saying these people have never read anything, but from what prose they have read, they're like, well, I know that you tend to have a person's perspective, so I'm going to write it from their perspective, but then I'm going to jump to somebody else's perspective. So they kind of inherently know that that's what prose does, but they don't get how ineffective and jarring that normally is.
I mean, and obviously, again, none of these are absolute. Stephen King does write like that.
And for some
does
reason,
it really well.
I never have a problem with it when he does it. And I can't really articulate it, but it shouldn't work, and it does.
Yeah, no. Obviously, some people can make it work. None of these are absolutes, but
right.
These shouldn't be the norm, and I feel like they're the norm.
Yeah.
I think if I was breaking into writing right, and here's the thing, because there is another side to this, and that's the publishing.
I just think there's a reason we have the conventions.
Yeah.
I mean, like some of those conventions are really useful, and you can break away from them when you understand them. But I'm afraid that we're getting so far away from some of them that they stop being the conventions, and then we just lose what's effective about prose, and some of the artistry starts to go missing. Right?
I mean, I personally, again, with genre, I'm done with the genre snobbery. Like, I feel like we've spent 3 decades trying to justify the genres, and guess what? There's no fun genre anymore. There's no... I'm speaking in absolutes. Like, there is some fun genre stuff. Majority, and most of that's urban fantasy.
Just like with a lot of superhero movies, we're just taking ourselves too damn seriously.
Yeah. Everything has to be so... Like, what happened to the old... Like, there is no sword and sorcery novels. And if there is, they're not actually that. They're just 500-page epics with more fight scenes than the other 500-page epics. They're not... It's not Fafhrd and the Grey Mouse. Nobody's writing, like, 70-page just, like, adventure stories and things like that. And science fiction's the same way. Like, nobody's just doing...
And everybody wants to...
Ringworld is, like, 200 pages. And Ringworld is a foundational piece.
And so many things, like you say, they're kind of apologetic. We're like, no, I'm important.
Yeah. Most things Heinlein wrote are like groundbreaking and really important. I don't think any of them go past 300 pages.
Like, yes, be about things and say something, but don't pat yourself on the back about it, and don't, I mean, I've said this a million times, and like, don't put it in neon lights and be like, well, my message is good, so my story is good. Like, that should be inherent in the fiction, but it needs to be a good fiction.
And I also think it's weird, because a lot of people writing in genres, like, obviously read that genre. How are there all these people writing 500-page detective novels, and none of them go, well, you know what, like, none of the old, like, all of the old ones are like 210, 250, like,
yeah,
why aren't they, like, why don't they see that?
I want to get back to that and see if we can maybe try to nail down why that is and what's caused it, because I'm still scratching my monkey cranium about it. I'm not sure.
I have a theory, which is, and I think it is that pretentious thing a little bit, not necessarily from the writers exactly, but
I have a theory too. We'll see if they're the same.
I think we've gotten to a point where people that read books want to feel smart, and they feel like, oh, I read a 7-book series, and each book was 800 pages, and I think there's a weird like ego-stroking symbiosis between writers and readers.
Yeah.
That has become a thing where it's like, oh yeah, I'm just as smart as you. I read all 4 of your books or whatever.
You maybe just think of this. I think publishing, like prose publishing, has the same problem that comics do to a certain degree. We're not trying to get new readers. We're trying to push things to the base we have already.
Yeah, which is kind of like the writing for trade thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, well, every issue can't be someone's first issue. We're going to keep saying that we're not actually going to do that. We're not going to write single issues anymore. We're going to write, 6 to 8 issue long arcs that are also going to be part of, a 50 to 80 issue, mega arc kind of a thing. And it's for us. It's not for the uninitiated.
Like when you had shorter, more kind of pocket novels, even at the advent of television, and while television was getting popular, that was still a primary way that a lot of people were getting entertainment, and so it was like watching a movie, and people would sit down, and a book wouldn't take them more than 3 or 4 hours, and they could do it in an afternoon. And maybe part of the reason that we're not doing that anymore is we feel like we already have mediums for that. So we say, well, if somebody's going to sit down and read, they're going to want something more sprawling. Like the point of prose is that it gives you...
What about commute books? What about people like to read in the bathroom?
And what they miss is it still takes longer to do, and you still have more real estate than you do in a movie. And so even if you were to adapt a 70 or 80,000 word novel to a movie, you're still missing a lot. Like you still are able to learn more about your characters and build the world more and get more in their heads, right?
The Shining's like 300-something pages, and they have trouble adapting it. But we're going to keep trying to adapt these like epic science fiction fantasy
And The
novels.
Shining's not short, but it's shorter than a lot of his later stuff.
Yeah. And he... I think Stephen King desperately needs an editor and has for about 3 decades. But
well, and that's a whole other thing. That's just when you're that big of a superstar.
Anne Rice is the same way. Anne Rice doesn't have an editor. Yeah.
And I'm not convinced he's always revising himself that much. And if he wouldn't see this, but if he were to look at this video, he'd be like, he might be like, no, you jerk, I do.
Yeah.
But I can't always tell, and I think that's maybe a problem. You know. With all due respect, but
I think he does the jumping between perspectives very gracefully, except for sometimes, like, so...
Also, to be fair, it's not like that's his normal MO.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like, he does it sometimes, but most of his books he's not constantly switching between perspectives.
Any of his multi-people books. Like, because he likes to do books about small towns.
I've not read one that did it outside of The Shining, and The Shining didn't do it the whole way through.
All the Dark Tower books do. Well, not the first one, because the first one's all about the gunslinger. Maybe not even the second one. But, like, once we get the content together, we're jumping between their heads a bunch. Salem's Lot does it. Needful Thing. Like, all of his small town novels do that. Because you're jumping across so many different characters. But even, like, it does it because it's a bunch of different kids. But it also does it with side characters. Like, you know the mom that's, like, really, really overbearing? Mm-hmm. There's a point where we just stop, and we find out why she's like that. I'm like, look, I get it, she's an overbearing mom. I'm following this character, I'm getting that he's this way because she's doing that. I don't even know why she's that way. Too much. 1,200-page novel about a psychic clown man.
We need to move on to rants here in a second, but I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, or maybe just a statement. Audiobooks are expensive. We've complained about this before.
Yes, too expensive.
That's partly because of how long they are. We could write some shorter books and have some shorter audiobooks.
That's true.
That would be nice. I think for some people, the main way they're consuming books are audiobooks. And I talk to people, and all due respect to you, because I know you listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I know that sometimes when you say read, you meant listen to.
I do.
Like, I know that to be true. So I'm not dogging on you when I say this, but I think there are a lot of people that I have talked to that claim they read that were probably listening to audiobooks. I don't think they were lying to me, but just they do that thing where they're just like, I read this book. Oh wait, no, you listen to it as an audiobook.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is how many people don't actually sit down and crack a book open.
They just listen.
We know Kindles are still popular, but I wonder how many people like get most of their books on the train or driving or whatever. And if that's the case, this is kind of a separate but related issue that I kind of started this whole thing with, which is what do we do to bring more people into this? I think the audiobook companies have been working really hard to like push the audiobook thing. You see commercials for it now. You didn't used to. I wonder if there's not more pushing to be done with that. Like, I hesitate to say let's have exclusive audiobooks that aren't in print, because obviously I'm a huge advocate for reading.
And I mean, there are some of those have been done. There is at least one Stephen King audiobook that's a collection of short stories that was never in print.
Yes. I didn't know that.
Stephen King's all about doing things that nobody's ever done before. He also wrote the first e-novel.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, he has written.
He's got that distinction with They Might Be Giants, which had the first internet
Audible
EP. Yeah.
Nice. I think Clive Barker has also done that. I think he's written I think he also wrote a short story collection that's audio only.
But I don't know. Do you think there's something to that we should be doing more with the audiobook thing, or are we doing everything we possibly can?
I think we're doing about as much as we can. I mean, I would advertise in different places. I would advertise on YouTube videos and things like that. I also think
I see book commercials at Target now.
Interesting.
And that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to tangent.
Yeah,
but I'm just going to tangent for a second. I once saw a commercial that's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I saw a commercial for a novel that was written by one of those hacks. The guy that just put out like 10 books a year and probably didn't write most of them. He does the Alex Cross series. I can't think what his name is. But it was just a video. Like, it was on television, and it's just a table and a book, and they drop the book and they say this, so and so's title. It's unputdownable. And then it just goes to the next commercial. That was the whole commercial. I think something.
That's really funny.
Yeah. I wish I could remember that guy's name. But
give me a second. You're advertising literature, and you throw a complete non-word. Okay. Where's I going with that? I think something, and this is not on writers. This is on PR. This is on publishing. Yeah.
We need superstar writers again. And right now, the only way you get that is if you get a TV show. No one knew who George R. R. Martin was before Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and then when it happens, it's a lot of people that are just hoping that happens for them.
Mm-hmm.
So like they don't really want to be. I mean, maybe they do want to be writers, but they know that the only way they can make money with it is if they get option. And by the way, a lot of what we're talking about also translates to comics. Like much of what we're talking about with literature, you've heard us talk about with comics.
And to be fair, this is kind of. It's been this way for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, Stephen King is Stephen King because Carrie and the Shining happened.
Of course, yeah. So this goes back decades.
Yeah, yeah. But we need more superstar
But his
authors.
books still sell better than anybody else's.
Yeah, yeah.
I wish good screenwriters and more good comic writers would put novels out.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple. Kirkman has done 2 or 3 Walking Dead novels.
Yeah, but I wish he'd like write his own stuff. I mean, obviously this is his own stuff, but I wish he would like write a novel that's not connected
Warren Ellis
to a
is
property.
doing that.
Yeah.
Warren Ellis has said like in 10 years he'll probably be doing primarily prose work and some comic work. He is doing that. He is on his 4th novel, I believe.
Oh, interesting.
So he is doing that.
Like Morrison should be writing novels. I don't understand if
Morrison
he's not.
should be writing
I don't
novels.
get that.
Obviously, Neil Gaiman is weird because I think of him as a novelist first, but he starts in comics. Like he left comics basically to be a novelist.
Yeah, but he's more known for his novels.
At this point, yes.
I mean, yes, Sandman's huge, but beyond that,
Yeah.
like
Well, and that's his thing, right? Like he's done some other things, 1408 and whatnot, but like he did Sandman.
1602, you mean?
1602, not 1408.
Is there also a thing called 1408?
1408 is a Stephen King short story.
All Neil Gaiman does is just dates. He just writes date books.
Yeah.
Lastly, this was the big question.
Yeah.
If we shorten the books again, does it help the industry, or is it just better for you and me? You know what I mean?
I think it helps the industry. I think people are intimidated. I think people that are readers.
So this is the comics problem.
I think this is. I think people.
Maybe a slightly different problem, but that industry is, as you say, intimidating.
I think someone walks through. I think somebody walks through the science fiction and fantasy aisle and sees. Also, if they were shorter, we could have 2 different sections.
Which we complained about last time. Yeah.
No, I think they walk through the science fiction fantasy section and see everything is this thick.
Or did we complain about that on After Dark? I can't remember.
I'm not
if that
sure.
was a GNN
We complained
or
about it
After Dark,
somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, they see novels that are this thick, and like, well, I'm not. I don't have time to read that. I think that's the thing too. I think people are busy, and
there's too much vying for people's attention.
Yeah, and they're like, I don't have time to read all of that.
But
if it was,
people binge now. But you can do that in the background. But you can listen to an audiobook in the background.
Yeah. No,
So how much of it is an excuse and how much of it is accurate? I'm just saying that's a question.
I don't know if it's an excuse as much as it's a.
But when people say I don't have time, they'll binge a 12-hour show.
Yeah. I just think it's the intimidation. I don't think it's like lying to yourself or like making excuses as much as it's just like I don't
they really do think they don't have time.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about it.
Yeah. They're just like I have a 12-hour show to binge. How am I gonna?
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, I'm not doing enough reading either.
And neither am I.
You know, so like I don't mean to be pretentious. It's not like I'm reading every week or even every day. Like I should be.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I think video games mess things up.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because in a lot of ways, see, we're talking about the archy TV show as the new novel, but really video games are the new novel.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that play Call of Duty that used to be readers or would have been readers 20 years ago. The Tom Clancy audience does not exist anymore.
That's where they're at.
They just play Tom Clancy video games, but also.
The science fiction audiences in video games.
The entire...
a bunch of other places, too.
Throughout the entire decade of the 70s and into the 80s, we used to make the male version of Harlequin romance novels. We made short, fast, just fun action-adventure, it's 150 pages, it comes out monthly.
That will never be appealing again.
No.
And post-fiction and magazines.
Yeah.
And serialized.
People really did read Playboy for the articles.
They did.
Like that kind of... A lot of major writers...
I think some people still don't realize that in science fiction.
Yeah.
Some major science fiction authors that got their start in Playboy.
Stephen King writes quite a bit for Playboy early on in his career. A lot of his short stories are first printed in Playboy.
No, history of Playboy is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a documentary made on it. I don't know if
I bet it has been.
I'd be interested in watching that.
No, I know there's a Playboy documentary, but I don't know if it's just about like the like Hafner and the Playboys and stuff, or in the Playmates and stuff. Or
I don't care about that.
I don't care about that either.
I care about the beginning stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Hugh Hefner basically had like a crossroads at one point where he chose like which way to go with his life, and the other direction was comics.
Interesting.
Yeah, Hugh Hefner, big comic book guy.
That could have changed everything.
Mm. Or he would have been unsuccessful and like he would have been like comic book successful.
But he had such a head for business.
That's true.
That he could have been really interesting for the industry.
But yeah, he flirted with doing comics.
Well, we just did a 25-minute rant. Let's do our regular rants now.
All right.
And Eric, let's try to make these shorter than normal if at all
right.
possible.
So
I didn't know if we could get a topic out of that, and it went 10 minutes over time. That's amazing.
It's gonna be pretty easy because this is a drunken rant. I am not drunk, but I first talked about this while I was drunk.
Okay, go ahead.
This is going to sound like it's something someone would come up with while they're drunk. There is not enough variety in fast food. I hate that late at night, my options are burgers, and Taco Bell.
That's right.
I want some other things.
Yeah.
I want to...
And there's some other chains, but they're not prevalent.
And a lot of them aren't open late like the big ones.
That's right. So you're just talking about... So you're just complaining that they're not open late?
I mean, not just that they're not open late, but they're not...
But do you mean options in general?
I mean
just
options in general.
2 in the morning?
I mean options in general, but it would help at 2 in the morning. Certainly like Chick-fil-A exists.
We have Chick-fil-A. Well, but chicken is also a whole thing. I mean, like you have to put that in there too because you have. I mean, burgers obviously is the predominant thing. Tacos is maybe second. Chicken is vying for second place right now.
That's true. You got Popeyes, you have KFC.
You had KFC going all the way back.
Yeah.
You have Popeyes, like you said. There's another 1 or 2. We also have some kind of fast foodish diners like Freddy's and things like that. But again, that remains.
It's a burger
mostly burgers and milkshakes. You have things like Fazoli's for Italian, which is neat that exists.
I would like a more prevalent.
But we need more of that
Italian.
kind of thing.
Fast food barbecue.
I
hate when I don't have time to stop, and I'm like, well, what's around? I guess burgers and like bad burgers and Taco Bell.
Because we can find examples of these things. But
they're
not
not
think of one that's close to you.
And yeah.
Like
I can't go to Fazoli's at 2 in the morning.
15 minutes away, but I got a McDonald's right up the street.
Yep.
But and then of course I think you have to tack pizza onto fast food because those are everywhere and you don't get them as
they're almost
fast.
always delivery. I mean, you can walk in, but
you're saying there's not enough places where you can buy just a slice?
Yeah. Outside a gas station.
I happen to live in a city where there's a lot of like mom and pop pizza where you can do that, but in your average small town you can't.
But not 2 in the morning.
No, but around here there's almost nothing.
That's true.
I can't even get Taco Bell at 2 in the morning most of the time. So
that's true. Taco Bell closes at 2.
They close at 2. Yeah.
You know what I mean.
I completely agree with your
rant. Yeah. I know you do because when I brought it up while I was drunk, you did agree with me.
No, I thought it was a good idea to mention the examples because people will be like, well, what about this and what about this?
They do exist, but they're not enough. There needs to be another seafood than Long John Silver's.
Long John Silver's, yeah, and
the greasiest restaurant in all of existence.
Yeah, and like
more than Taco Bell.
Fast casual's helpful, but wouldn't it be nice if one of those was open until 12 or 1 in the morning?
Yeah. Oh man, Chipotle would kill if it was open. I mean, Chipotle's opens pretty late, but like Chipotle would kill if they were open till like 2 in the morning. Yeah.
And like, you're talking about fast food and like that's cheap, but I'll pay a little extra to get, Chipotle or Jimmy John's at, 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And
there also
and Jimmy John's, some of those are open really late. See, I was used to Jimmy John's being a late restaurant because I worked at one almost overnight, but that was because I lived downtown in Lawrence and they had and it was a bar rush. Most Jimmy John's are not open that late. And that was the thing I learned when I came out here. I was like, oh, Jimmy John's isn't an open late restaurant? It was just us because we could make money at that hour? Oh. Well, getting close till 3 in the morning.
There also should be a fast food someplace. There isn't there's not a someplace where they drive through or a major someplace where they drive. Like Subway doesn't have a drive through, right?
A lot of Jimmy John's do now.
Do they? Okay. Okay.
Some of those do now.
And Jimmy John's is new to me. Like, we don't have Jimmy John's in Florida, so...
Yeah. And, like, again, it's not fast food cheap, but I don't know if you would want to eat a sandwich that was much cheaper than, like...
Jimmy John's pretty reasonably priced.
Well, I mean, they've gone up over the years, but what I was going to say is I don't know if you want to eat something much cheaper than Subway.
No, I don't want something cheaper than Subway. I just want Subway to be faster and have a drive-through.
One thing Subway did do, though, I don't know, I guess this is a topic I could talk about all day. One thing Subway did do that I appreciate is somehow they made the restaurants not as difficult to walk into and smell. Because at one time, like I couldn't walk into one of those places, and they've done something about that.
Yeah, and then but they also got rid of the $5 footlong menu. It doesn't exist. You can't get. They don't have them anymore.
Not for almost a decade now, I think. I mean, I think it's been a long time since they've had that.
True.
Is that not true?
It's more recent.
Or
it's been that way here and it finally reached Florida, but like no, that is within the past like 3 years thing.
Oh, I don't remember.
It kept shrinking.
Okay,
but it was always there.
I don't remember $5 footlongs even 5 years ago. So.
Oh no, I totally do.
I remember that being like a 90s and early 2000s thing that you saw advertised all the time on TV.
Oh no.
They had it more recently, huh?
I mean, I was a starving like single guy. Like no, they totally there were $5 footlongs. I know for a fact. But anyways,
yeah.
What was your
because like that and Little Caesars kept college kids alive.
Yep.
My rant will probably be kind of short. So Eric. Nintendo is doing some kind of... It's funny because, like, I praised the Pokemon commercial really hard. Like, I like a lot of what they're doing on the Switch, but they are doing some branding that's a little bit confused, and I don't like it, and I think it's a little lazy. So they're re-releasing, as you know, a lot of Wii U games on the Switch, and some of them I think they're almost pretending like are brand new games. They're not giving you any indication that this was released before. Tropical Freeze is that way, and there's other stuff. I mean, like Mario Kart, we said Deluxe, so we were giving you a sense that existed before. But I know there's other stuff I'm not thinking of right now. But anyway, this is where I draw the line. This is where it's weird. I don't like that they're doing this release, and I don't know how much it's going to cost. I mean, like if it's a bargain title, okay, I don't think it will be, but. I don't like that this title exists, but I also don't like that they didn't change the title. They're re-releasing, and you know about this? They're re-releasing New Super Mario Bros. U on the Switch.
Are they calling it New Super Mario Bros. Switch?
No, they're keeping U in the title.
That seems honest.
It's honest, but it's weird. It's like kind of confused branding.
Why would you release that before Mario Maker?
Well, the conventional wisdom with Mario Maker is they haven't done that yet because they're not totally sure what they want the interface to be because they don't have the two screens anymore. So like, I get that. Hopefully they figure that out and they figure out how they want to do that. I've talked about that a little bit. But anyway, I don't know though. Like, it's honest, but it's also confused branding because they're trying to make everyone forget that system even existed. I mean, like when they put, I say this all the time, they put out Zelda on 2 platforms on the same day, and they discontinued the last platform. To have anything that has U in the title is a really strange choice.
I mean, that's the title of that game.
Yeah, I know, but, and I don't mean to sound hypocritical, because to change it, you're right, would be to say that, like, it would be to pretend like it's a brand new game. Like the
3DS version of Mario 64 is called Mario 64.
Right, but that's a classic game. That's the difference. This came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
That's what I knew you were going to bring that up, and that's what's weird about it. No, I'm glad you brought it up because I wanted to mention that. I like it with 64 because that's a classic game. That's like that's people's childhood. But New Super Mario Bros. U, like, these things are really easy to throw together. Why didn't you just make a new one?
Yeah.
I don't understand why we're doing that.
Yeah.
They're doing all the levels from New Super Mario Bros. U and Luigi U, and they're adding a couple of characters, but, like, I own the software they're using!
I feel like...
It's not hard to make more levels for Mario Maker and slap it together and put it on the Switch. And they just, like, they're treating it like a major release, like a AAA title.
Oh.
Or at least I say they are, because that commercial just came out last week, and it doesn't come out till January.
Now, I mean,
really, 4 months? Like,
what would you call it? Because it would be... Oh, well, you just want a new game.
I just want a new game.
Okay. Because it would be worse if they called it, like New Super Mario Bros. Switch, and that was just Super Mario Bros. U.
But see, I'm already annoyed at these games and have been for a lot of years anyway, because they command the same price as a normal game, but they're not any longer than the old Mario games were, and they're side-scrollers, and they ought to be. It's just not that hard. Like, $50-$60, you're going to have 8 worlds with, like, at most 80 or 90 level. Really? Like, I don't mean to sound entitled about this, but you have a crazy amount of levels
Sonic
in
Mania
your...
was not a AAA title.
But you have a yeah, and it was longer than your average Sonic game. But you have, I think, you have a a really long game with a lot of different levels with Odyssey, and you're gonna release, you're gonna keep releasing new Super Mario Brothers
At full price.
And if it's not full price, then, because I don't know what the price tag is, like if it's not, then okay, and I guess I'll take back that part of this. But I already thought it was weird that they haven't beefed these up and made them a little bit light, especially because the Super Mario Maker exists, and we can already play a bunch of Mario levels that other people are making. Like,
and what I'd always been told about Super Mario Maker
again,
was that,
we all have the software they're using.
Well, and what I always heard about Super Mario Maker is that was, I want to say Miyamoto, that might not be Miyamoto. If somebody was like, wait, why don't we just release this?
Yeah.
And then we won't release any more Mario games like this because they have it now. But it's not in the system, so maybe that doesn't apply.
Yeah, but if they're gonna but then that makes it even weirder, where it's like, well, we can release a game like we used to, even though Mario Maker exists and people with a Wii U can play all these levels. I don't know. Maybe this doesn't bother anybody else but me, but I think it's a strange thing to do. It looks kind of money milky to me. Like, I don't mind if they, like, I wouldn't mind it so much if it didn't have a physical release and they just had it like as a cheaper download or something. Mm-hmm. But it's weird if that's like, if they treat that like a release.
Or was tacked on like a new game or something.
Yeah.
It was downloadable.
No, that would be great.
Yeah.
You know, or even if that was a physical release, where it's like, you have, if they had a new Switch game and it was 8 worlds and then on top of it you get the last game, that's cool.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's my rant. Thanks a lot for watching, folks. Sure appreciate it. That is going to be it for Geeks Not Nerds today. Join us for more Omnibus if you are so inclined. The next video we're going to do is a comic vault on Last Stand of the Wreckers, the Transformers comic story. So look forward to that. And if you are watching the playlist, just keep it rolling, and you will get to that comic vault. That's going to be it for us right now on this video. Thanks for watching, folks. I am Captain Logan,
and I'm Eric,
and we will see you again in a bit.